Frankfurt, where an extra good place awaits me," answered Didi. "The people I am going to were down at the baths last summer, and it was part of my duty to attend upon their rooms. They would have liked them to take me away with them, but I could not leave. Now they are there again, and have repeated their offer, and I intend to go with them. You may make up your mind to that."
"I am glad I am not the child," exclaimed Barbel with a gesture of horrified pity. "Not a creature knows anything about the old man up there. He will have nothing to do with anybody, and never sets foot inside a church from one year's end to another. When he does come down once in a while, everybody clears out of the way of him and his big stick. The mere sight of him with his bushy grey eyebrows and his immense beard is alarming enough. He looks like any old heathen or Indian, and few would care to meet him alone."
"Well, and what of that?" said Didi in a defiant voice. "He is the grandfather all the same, and must look after the child. He is not likely to do her any harm, and if he does, he will be answerable for it, not I."
"Oh, I should very much like to know," continued Barbel in an inquiring tone of voice, "what the old man has on his conscience that he looks as he does, and lives up there on the mountain like a hermit, hardly ever allowing himself to be seen. All kinds of things are said about him. You, Didi, however, must certainly have learnt a good deal concerning him from your sister. Am I not right?"
"You are right, I did. But I am not going to repeat what I heard. If it should come to his ears, I should get into trouble about it." Now Barbel had for long past been most anxious to ascertain particulars about Amuncle, as she could not understand why he seemed to feel such hatred toward his fellow creatures, and insisted on living all alone, or why people spoke about him half in whispers, as if afraid to say anything against him, and yet unwilling to take his part. Moreover, Barbel was in ignorance as to why all the people in Dörfli called him Amuncle, for he could not possibly be uncle to everybody living there. As, however, it was the custom, she did like the rest, and called the old man uncle. Barbel had only lived in Dörfli since her marriage, which had taken place not long before. Previous to that, her home had been below in Prättigau, so that she was not well acquainted with all the events that had ever taken place, and with all the people who had ever lived in Dörfli and its neighborhood. Didi, on the contrary, had been born in Dörfli, and had lived there with her mother until the death of the latter the year before, and had then gone over to the baths at Ragaz, and taken service in the large hotel there as chambermaid. On the morning of this day she had come all the way from Ragaz with the child, a friend having given them a lift in a hay-cart as far as Mayenfeld. Barbel was therefore determined not to lose this good opportunity of satisfying her curiosity. She put her arm through Didi's in a confidential sort of way, and said, "I know I can find out the real truth from you, and the meaning of all these tales that are afloat about him. I believe you know the whole story. Now do just tell me what is wrong with the old man, and if he was always shunned as he is now, and was always such a misanthrope." "How can I possibly tell you whether he was always the same, seeing I am only 26, and he at least 70 years of age? So you can hardly expect me to know much about his youth. If I was sure, however, that what I tell you would not go the whole round of Prättigau, I could relate all kinds of things about him. My mother came from Dumleschg, and so did he."
"Nonsense, Didi, what do you mean?" replied Barbel, somewhat offended. "Gossip has not reached such a dreadful pitch in Prättigau as all that, and I am also quite capable of holding my tongue when it is necessary."
"Very well, then, I will tell you. But just wait a moment," said Didi in a warning voice, and she looked back to make sure that the child was not near enough to hear all she was going to relate. But the child was nowhere to be seen, and must have turned aside from following her companions some time before, while these were too eagerly occupied with their conversation to notice it. Didi stood still and looked around her in all directions. The footpath wound a little here and there, but could nevertheless be seen along its whole length nearly to Dörfli. No one, however, was visible upon it at this moment.
"I see where she is," exclaimed Barbel. "Look over there."
And she pointed to a spot far away from the footpath.
"She is climbing up the slope yonder with the goatherd and his goats. I wonder why he is so late today bringing them up."